Undercover percent tutorial. I'm glad you're doing good. I'm doing fantastic. Because I can't wait to do this. Because this is kind of long overdue. Especially with the fact that there's some things that we don't have too much more time to save. You know, the whole thing that we've got going on here. It's pretty. This should hopefully be a pretty definitive undercover percent tutorial. I'm gonna start with the basics, loading into this, talking about no cuts, talking about all that stuff. This will probably be clipped into many different YouTube videos. Ooh, nice. Full playthrough of Police Station blindfolded. Very nice. I've turned off the point rewards for today, all except giving me some good RNG, mostly because I do want to put this up on YouTube, and I want this to be, you know, a beginner-friendly type stream. We'll turn it back on later today, but for the time being, we're just going to have them off just so that we don't have to worry about, like, oh, and now let's do a gamble. Like, I want this to be pretty professional. Just want to give chat some love. Fair enough. You can do that later, though. We'll see how long this takes us. First things first, you all know Lego City Undercover speedrunning is done with the no cuts extra. So that is a N0 CUT5. Oh, and you just go down. You guys can see the controllers on screen. This is a beginner guide. This is a straight up from the beginning to the top. I'm just gonna do this is an in-depth. Everybody's trying to figure out how to do this game. I'm gonna teach you right now. We've got the no cuts. Press A to B here. And another mention, setup for undercover percent. We are in Italian. That's very important. If you can change your properties on Steam, you can change it in your console menu. Change your game to Italian. It saves you 10 seconds easy. And another thing you want to do that's going to save you just a couple of seconds. Later in the run, we are going to get one super brick, and that one super brick is Turbo per tutti, or Turbo for all. You can click it a couple times. It doesn't matter, but what happens is that if we, you know, if I play through the game, and if I go to extra, Turbo for all, it still is on, that your menu is still on that red brick, so it saves you just a couple seconds. Every little thing is gonna save time. It all adds up, KK Mac. It all adds up. I'm not going to go too in depth on the warping and the two-player clipping. I'll show a little bit of it here, and I'm not going to go in depth at all in terms of two-player movement. The most that I can tell you is that I've got two controllers. My first player is on my left knee, and you can see that white controller stick moving on your screen. And my second player is on my right knee. I keep this set up for the entire run. The only thing that gets a little bit tricky is driving, where if I want to drive with both players, I have my my pointer. It's going to be kind of weird to show reversed. I've got my pointer on the trigger. I've got, this is probably a better way to do it, my thumb on my boost button, and then I use the palm of my hand to rotate my, you know, my movement. Second player is a little easier just because it is trigger, thumb, and then pointer. And so that's not as bad. You are not going to you need to find a setup for yourself, whether it's going to be with 2 controllers, two hands on keyboard, or 1 hand on keyboard, 1 hand on controller. That is up to you. I use 2 controllers just because that's what I'm used to. But, all up to you. 2-player warping is the second thing, the second most important thing. So beyond 2-player movement in general, being able to control, just kind of separating your brain and being able to control and get that muscle memory down for 2 players, what you want to do as well is master the art of 2-player warping. There's this button here. It's in Italian. Teletran. Oh, I can't even say it. But it is teleport to the other player. And so you might have seen. So if I have second player warp to first player, you can see that every time I warp, it wants to warp behind. It wants to warp behind where the player you're warping to is facing. So if I face towards the camera, player 2 is going to warp behind me. But if I face away from the camera, player 2 is going to... Oh, well, that was a bad example. Player 2 is generally going to warp more towards the camera. That's how it goes. So we can abuse that pretty heavily. If we wanted to get into this building, which we will see later on, we can merely just teleport in. I did a couple things there that's important to note, because this is used quite a lot to clip into places. I have player 1 here, and as you will see, I jump and then pause at the peak with my player 2 controller. I'm going to warp with player 2. And that is going to be able to clip you into places that you wouldn't normally be able to clip to. And it works most of the time. Sometimes you need a couple extra. That's, sometimes something like that'll happen. And this is also weird because I've already done this, and so it's not behaving quite right. But, all you need is to just jump and warp. If you need a couple more warps, though, if you don't clip in the first time, keep it. Keep whatever setup. So say, second player warps here. And I'm like, dang, I messed up a little bit. Also, this camera is pretty ass. Alright, there we are. I'm not going to jump with player 2 right now. And player 1 is going to warp behind player 2. Like that. And that's alright. You only need to jump at your first warp. If you need any subsequent warps, which is losing you time, you just need to keep it. Keeping it is the name of the game afterwards, because if you just keep it and you do enough warps and you point in the right direction of where you want to go to, eventually you will clip in and you will do something good. That's pretty much all I'm going to do for explaining the basics. This was a very short explanation. My other tutorial has an in-depth look at how to 2-player warp, and Wizard Power also has a very nice video on how to 2-player warp. It's very good. Very good.